God bless America, the land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night, from the light from above, from the mountains to the prairies, to the oceans, white with foam. God bless America, my home, sweet home. God bless America, my home, sweet home. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you. I know, but I can't.
And there we go as the camera pans away as we move everything over to the front of the march. I'm Doug Keck, still with you here, of course, with our chaplain here at EWTN, my cohort, Father Joseph Mary Wolf, of course. We just have been enjoying listening to the speeches and the talks from the platform. What struck you the most of anything anybody had to say?
I think the doctor, her name was Dr. Christie, where she was talking about when she looks at the ultrasound of her patients and the patient has a Down syndrome child, her heart falls because she knows it's a death sentence for that child 9 out of 10 times.
Right.
And that's really what this march is about this year, the gift of life, that every life is a gift, even if it has a certain thing it has to overcome in life, that every life is precious, a gift.
And as we can see from the counter, there's about 574 gifts that were unfortunately returned, unopened, so to speak, indicating the number of abortions that have happened in the United States since the start of today's coverage following the Mass. And we have, we can see that on the screen. We're going to see some images as well as we go back to the site at the beginning of the march, which I think Teresa Tomeo is going to be at. One of the things I noticed last night, of course, people might have heard the State of the Union address, etc. was on Tuesday, actually. But Alveda King, Dr. Alveda King, of course, who works for Priests for Life and has been on multiple of our programs, was not too long ago on both News Nightly, and Raymond had a long interview with her. But, you know, she was commenting on the fact that there is a shift in our political climate. We pray for a transformation of the heart. In My King Rules, Defend Life Chapter, which is a book she wrote, the sanctity of life is highlighted. And as you can see here, we're getting some pictures already. It looks like this is reality television. You can see Teresa there trying to get herself
yeah, I'm here.
to the front.
I'm
there
here,
she
Doug.
is. She's in the action. Teresa.
We were going, yes, exactly. I thought we were going to get Jeannie Monahan, but we keep fire in this crowd. They started without her. They are walking a little bit further. Still, the Supreme Court actually at 14th and Constitution. Normally they started a few blocks up. We're going to wait for a second. We don't want to see these wonderful colleagues leading the march, and the March for Life begun.
And as you can see there, obviously technology playing a little problematic for us there. We see the crowd actually moving to where Teresa is already. We're trying to get that shot, obviously, at the front of the march like we have. And as she indicated, Father, the people are so enthused that they didn't even wait for the official start to start moving. So they caught everybody by surprise. And we'll do what we can to work that out, again, to get you the best pictures and coverage we can of the 42nd Annual March for Life, coming to you exclusively live through EWTN's coverage. I'm Doug Keck, along with Father Joseph Mary Wolf, live from Washington, D.C. And as I was mentioning about Alveda King, she also had a story about her own situation, and she quoted her uncle, Dr. Martin Luther King, saying years ago that the Negro cannot win if he is willing to sacrifice the future of his children for personal and immediate comfort and safety. And I think that's the kind of unfortunate statement that for many baby boomers across all lines and cultures has been a lot of times what it is is it moves from being this, gee, it's not, I can't do it, I can't deal with it, when the reality is, yes, it's a cross, it is a cross. But at the same time, the issue is, at what cost are you getting rid of supposedly that cross, which then, as we know, through Silent No More, doesn't really go away. You're just taking what seems like the quick way out. But the reality is that it's for us to step up and take care of people like we were taking care of.
Love has its own reward. When we choose to go outside of ourselves, to go to another in charity, even though it costs us something to do that, to give of ourselves, there's always a reward that comes. There's a satisfaction, there's a joy. And as I talked about Mother Angelica's own life, how that's come back to her and all of the care and tenderness with which she's treated, because that was something that she extended to so many other people.
Exactly, and we're seeing again images of the march as this group moves from the actual rally site to where the march is underway, and we're waiting to get some more video from the top of the march where Teresa is located. I also believe we hope to run into Wyatt Goolsby, who's a well-known reporter for EWTN News Nightly, who's kind of picked up the baton now that Mr. Patrick has moved back. Brian has moved back to the studio so that he, in fact, can anchor the news tonight and get that show prepared. And you know, one of the people who was on talking about ultrasound, of course, was Carl Anderson, Supreme Knight of the Knights of Columbus. And they're always involved. As Jeannie mentioned, you see their banners everywhere. And he has a book, A Civilization of Love, Whatever the Catholic Can Do to Transform the World, which really ties into the that whole panoply of the pro-life movement. So it's a book in case people are interested. We also have it through EWTN's religious catalog. And we're getting social media in as we speak. Again, we're starting to get some other pictures. We have to kind of move our setup from the rally site to the actual march area, and it takes a little while for us to get organized. As you can see, the throngs are moving forward, and again, shortly we'll be able to hopefully join with Teresa and Wyatt and be able to not only get reports, but actually hear from the people who are marching in this, which is very, very important.
It is. Carl Anderson, just a word about him. I think he's a great prophetic voice today, and he was talking about, you know, they've placed their 500th ultrasound machine in these different life centers that they have around the United States. And when women come to discover the reality of that child growing within them, they often make the better choice, the choice for life, to welcome this child that's growing within them, and that their motherhood instincts kick in, if you will. That they see that it's not just a blob of tissue, as maybe some have tried to make them believe, but it's a living person, often with a heartbeat. That many of the children that are being aborted today already have heartbeat. They already have many features that distinguish them as a human being.
Right, exactly. There you can see, Father, we're getting some additional shots, some of the high shots from further on down the actual march pathway, which will bring them past the Smithsonian National Museum. It goes along past there, National Art Gallery, down alongside the mall as it heads up towards the Senate and the Capitol building, of course, and then on to the Supreme Court building. And it was, I think, a little uplifting this year, I mean, post-election, to realize, regardless of where you are, Democrat or Republican, but just from a pro-life perspective, clearly there are more pro-lifers in Congress now than there have been in many, many years, if ever. I don't know, maybe before it became an issue, everybody was pro-life, but certainly since it became an issue, there has to be as many pro-lifers now in Congress as there have been for many, many years. And it gives you a positive feeling, because though there's some defeats already we know about, when they talk about trying to pass something, or they will pass something, you actually feel like it's not just, well, we're taking a stand, but we know it's not going to go anywhere. You actually have a feeling that maybe this time it will move itself forward.
I was happy that my own home state, Senator Joni Ernst, that she's been an outspoken proponent for life and pro-life issues. And it does give us hope, as the Reverend who offered the prayer before the beginning of the march pointed out, that God is the author of all life, obviously, that we have, as he said, an Uncle Sam, but we have a Heavenly Father who is over all. Yeah. So that's where our greatest confidence is in God, but we want to do everything that we can to change our legislation to respect all human life.
And that was Reverend Sammy Rodriguez of the National Hispanic Christian leadership conference who was making some of those analogies, I believe, which I know struck you as being something. And again, that's the kind of thing even for us here, when somebody explains it that way or says it that way, you yourself sitting there and make a note and say, gee, that's a good way to express it. I haven't really heard it expressed quite that way. And we may check out in a couple of weeks, may show up in one of your homilies. You never know.
I'm writing it down for
You're
material.
always looking for for new information. You talk about Joni Ernst from your state. When she responded to the President's State of the Union, she did say, and we'll defend life because protecting our most vulnerable is an important measure of any society. And one of the big points that Alveda King makes in response as well to President Obama is when they link together this idea of abortion and health care, as if killing a baby is some kind of health care.
One of the things that came out in Raymond's interview with her, they were talking about the movie Selma, which of course happened here in Alabama, the march for their rights, that often when abortion clinics are placed in a city, they choose the poorest area, often a very African-American community that they're often targeted, and that's why the highest percentage of abortions are often African Americans and minorities.
And that's why sometimes I know it can be a little disappointing when we don't see quite the presence that we'd expect to see from that community. But there's multiple cultural and political reasons why that has tended to be the case. But it's great to see, obviously, our Hispanic brothers and sisters there, as we saw with the Reverend. Of course, there's some images from the front of the march. And also seeing Tim Scott, obviously Alveda King. We saw the group that was interviewed from Africa, which wasn't just Africa, but it was also a young woman who became a convert in South Carolina, I think it was. So again, I think as things continue to grow and experience, it'll become more and more self-evident, like you're saying, that there's a targeting of the weakest.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's almost this kind of phony, well, let me help you. And the help comes along with, even we see in the United States and Africa, well, you can get support, well, you can get food, you can get this, but you have to have contraception. You have to have this other death side of the equation.
Pope Francis even brought that up when he was talking about that the West is trying to impose its own bad values upon these third world countries in order for them to receive aid, that they have to take these other negative
like an ideological colonization, I think he was kind of talking about it as. And it's always interesting, too, because it always seems to be that the richest people in the world, I have to admit, always seem to be very interested in helping poor people in many ways, good ways. But one of the things they're always involved with is population control. Going back to the Ford Foundation, through Bill Gates's group, whatever, always seem to be involved with population control.
When you look at like the immigrants from Mexico and so on, and they have large families, they often don't have a lot of means, that they have this deep sense of family and love of children and welcoming life. And so often the wealthier nations are trying to impose their own selfishness upon these cultures. Yes, we need to bring them the aid that is necessary for their material welfare, but we shouldn't try to impose our own selfish values on something that's already beautiful and good in their own respect and love of children and family.
Right, and again, because different cultures have different things that they value at different levels. And also, at what point does one determine that one is capable of raising a child or not? I mean, the living lifestyles, let alone the financial living of these things, are much different in different places. And we could see some images. We saw Marymount University there, banner, and I think I saw maybe Bishop Du Bois High School from St. Louis. You see a Respect Life sign there as well. Again, we're getting you some of the shots of the crowd moving forward. We're attempting right now to get some of our other cameras up and running. You saw some shots from the middle of the crowd there. So it put you right in the action there. Not quite our 360 effect that we had last year, but certainly got you there. Again, there you see some images of one of our cameramen obviously getting into position so we can hopefully do some interviews from man on the street. Put you right into the action there. And we'll continue to do that and bring you some updates on what's happening. And we'll check in, I'm sure, soon with our social media group to see what they have while we continue to give you the images of the March for Life, because we all know pictures are worth a thousand words plus, especially in the world we live in today. And we want to make sure you see this, because we look the same, but the images of the march, so you don't need to see us, but we want to keep things moving along. As you can see, the police and the whole crowd lining up to move ahead. So though we saw what was kind of the early organizing staging of the march, you can see through the trees back there, we'll start to see the blue columns moving right up the avenue. And while we do this, maybe we can check in with our social media mavens over there at our Pro-Life Center and check in. Michelle, Mike, maybe you can fill us in while we're watching these images of some of the feedback we've got through social media.
We would be happy to, Doug. The first post I want to read has to do with a woman who had an abortion, and I think this will be very comforting to anyone who is grieving that decision. I haven't spoken up before, but I want to say that my own abortion, which was so supported by the women's movement in 1972, has been a dark cloud over my entire life for the last 40+ years. I was never able to conceive again. Then I was widowed, and my own health fell apart, and I never had a family. But everything turned around when a priest and spiritual director told me that my child in heaven is praying for me. He has taught me to believe that the child is the reason I became Catholic, entered Carmel, and became a third-order Carmelite nun. That child, though once rejected by me, now wants me to get to heaven to meet him. And I shall, God willing, I shall. Does that make you want to cry or what? But what a beautiful testimony, and thank you, whoever you are, a third-order Carmelite nun. We also have a lovely post from Brittany A. Palm. She says, my mother dealt with various health problems throughout her life. The last few months of 2014, her health further deteriorated, and I was required to step up and care for her. She unexpectedly passed away in October at the age of 53. But towards the end, we grew closer because of her illness. I realized, after all, how crucial it is to value the life of everyone around you through good health and bad. It's in those moments that we fulfill God's plan for us to care for the least of these.
Beautiful. Yes, I've got a post from Maggie, and she writes, we took my mother in love out of a nursing home and brought her home to live with us. We all pitch in to help out. The kids stop in to see her when they come in from school and work. They help to take her meals to her home and on her dinner tray. We love having her here as a part of our home. I mean, that's the beauty of it. We don't make it about ourselves. When we stop making it about us, and we make it about the other person, that's that true love. We get out of ourselves and into the other person. That's what this is all about, and that's what's such a gift. So back to you, Doug.
Michelle, and I think we got some images, beautiful images now from the front of the march, as you can see, and we've got Teresa Tomeo on the line. Teresa.
Well, if I could catch my breath, we just ran from 14th to 7th, and we're now just past 7th Street. And if you could look behind me, I've got a student, by the way, from a high school in Philadelphia. Phoebe will get you in a second. I just want to show them a wide shot of what's happening here. There was a little bit of a mix-up, but hey, it's live. As you said, it's real TV. Jeannie Monahan ended up on Constitution versus over on 14th, and we saw Jeannie ran up here to get in front of her in the crowd. So the march is re-officially beginning, Doug. As we speak, you can see it marching now toward us on Constitution Avenue, heading up to the Supreme Court. Many of the people thinking that it was starting in the same location at 7th and Constitution actually came to 7th. And so we've got two groups of people, one large group at 7th and another large group coming from 14th. But this is the biggest crowd I've ever seen, Doug. I can tell you that when we left our headquarters where our crew was set up by the mall, we walked all the way down past the monument. The entire mall was filled. There are helicopters flying overhead. I haven't seen that in a few years. Now, the reporter in me is telling me one of two things. Wishful thinking, I'm hoping the secular media are up there finally figuring out that there are 400 or 500,000 people possibly here in Washington supporting life, or it could be police because the crowds are so loud they're trying to figure out what to do with traffic. I think it's probably the police. But in the meantime, let's grab a youthful person here. This is Phoebe. Thanks for your patience. Yeah. Phoebe is from Notre Dame High School in Philadelphia. And aren't you excited that the Pope's coming to your city in a few months, right?
I'm
So
hyped.
tell us about your group, and you're from Notre Dame High School in Philly,
We
correct?
go to a Catholic high school in Philadelphia. We came with a club called Respect Life, and we are all like about Catholic beliefs and stuff.
Awesome.
And we're pro-life. We like are against the death penalty.
Against abortion.
Against abortion.
We're pro-life from womb to tomb, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how did you get involved in the pro-life movement as a young girl?
I was just looking for groups to get involved with at school, and Respect Life, everybody loves it when they do it, so I wanted to join.
All
And
right.
then, so it was really just through school.
How many, I know I kind of pushed your friends aside so we could see the march coming toward us, but how many people do you have with you?
Probably like 40 or something.
Great.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll see you in Philadelphia at the
Okay.
World Meeting of Families. God
Thank
bless you.
you.
This is a young woman from Phoebe from Notre Dame High School in Philadelphia. I'm going to back out of the way and give you a live scene as the police cars and the march is coming toward us, Doug, on Constitution Avenue. Again, this started at 14th, about 7 blocks down. And some of the crowds, as I said earlier, at the normal location of 7th and Constitution. Biggest crowd I've ever seen, Doug, in the years I've been covering this. I'm going to let the natural sound speak for itself as the folks are coming toward us up Constitution Avenue. We're going to keep walking here, Doug. We're right in front of the police cars. I'm surrounded by a sea of high school students, college students, different pro-life organizations from around the country. It's a phenomenal scene here in Washington. Obviously, the weather has made a huge difference, bringing even more people here for the march. We'll give you some more net sound and some live pictures.
And as you can see there, Father, we can see Teresa Thomas. It looks like Teresa's leading the march there, the way it's going right now. And there's some more images. It's interesting. So now we have a better understanding because, again, as we said earlier, and Teresa had mentioned as well, and even Jeannie Monahan had mentioned the fact that it's a much longer march down Constitution. So what you had was probably people who didn't bother going to the rally site, coming from the Verizon Center or some other location, just said, well, we'll go to where the march starts. Right. And they were at the normal place, and that's why, so see, it's gotten so big, we have 2 marches happening simultaneously in Washington, D.C., so in that way, it's a victory. Again, we're giving you images, as you can see, as they happen, putting you right in the middle of the action, right at the front of the march. We heard Teresa with some interviews. We'll have some more people as we move along, and also some images directly from inside the march. We also hope to hear from Wyatt Goolsby from EWTN News Nightly, who's also, my understanding, in the crowd. But again, sometimes when you have this kind of wireless technology, when you have so many people and so many cell phones and other things going at once, it can cause some difficulties and make things that normally work fine be a little flakier than normal. Right. You're an engineer, you would know that.
That's right. So it's live TV, and sometimes we have glitches and things, especially with the wireless technology, as you mentioned. But I think we prefer to be there.
Right.
We prefer to see what's happening, even if there's a glitch here or there.
Right. Exactly, and that's what we see with people using their cell phones and whatever. You know, we want the highest quality HD sports and stuff like that, but when news is happening, events are happening, we're willing to sacrifice quality many times to be able to be right in the action and be aware as we can be and see it actually happening. As you can see, as they get up to certain streets there, they stop the march, and I think it's also designed to try to get the banner so they can catch up the rest of the group to tighten it up. Since I'm sure this is going to stretch well over a mile. So,
yeah, and thanks be to God for our crew and their dedication that enables people to take part in the march, even if they're homebound or they're not able to take part in the march physically. They're able to be there through the miracle of television and radio and the internet and feel like they're part of it. They can be a part in their own circumstances of their lives, and they can pray certainly for the success and change of hearts.
Right, exactly. And right now, maybe we can drop in for a couple of quick bites with our social media people to see while we're watching our images of the March for Life. Michelle, you got anything quick?
Absolutely. My mom passed away recently after a 6.5-year battle with brain cancer. She says she was there for the whole journey. This is Jennifer Ann. She says, I understand how tiring, stressful, and emotional it is to have a seriously ill family member. But I saw my mom interact and fight and hope and love until her last breath. And she was able to meet 5 grandchildren she wouldn't have known if we hadn't been willing to help her fight and give her a chance. It wasn't easy, but it was right. There's no other way to describe it.
Right, this is from Jephthah. He writes, I grew up always knowing abortion was bad, but thought it justifiable in cases of rape and incest. Now I feel completely different about those things and find nothing can justify ending life because of what I've learned watching March for Life coverage and listening to EWTN radio. Keep up the good work. Back to you, Doug.
Thanks, Mike, and thank you, Michelle, and thank you for people out there using social media to share your experiences of life and life-altering experiences with our audience around the world. This is EWTN's continuing live coverage of the 42nd Annual March for Life, coming live from Washington, D.C. And, you know, as a person who is always big on reading a lot of Civil War books, of course, down here it'd be the War of Northern Aggression, but which I didn't know about till I came to Alabama. But the fact is that there's this great picture of the Grand Army of the North marching through at the end of the war with the banners raised, and that's what it looks like. We have the Grand Army of pro-lifers marching through Washington, and I don't think they can be ignored.
And this is a peaceful movement, obviously. It's a movement of just raising the awareness of the dignity of every person, of putting the truth out there for people to consider, to pray about, to look at, because, as I said, the truth is buoyant. It always comes to the surface. We can't avoid it. Eventually it penetrates our hearts for our own conversion.
Exactly. Speaking of penetrating, we got Teresa with a penetrating interview. Teresa, right from the march. Maybe we don't quite have Teresa yet there. I thought we did, but we'll go back to her in a minute. Also, I wanted to remind everybody while you were looking at these wonderful pictures coming to you live from Washington, D.C., that you may be somebody who's watching EWTN maybe for the first time, or the only time you watch it is because of a big pro-life event like this, or maybe your kids went to it and you're hoping you'll see them on television through their school. Just a reminder that EWTN is everywhere. We have something for everybody in the pro-life, pro-family venues. And if you can't get us because you say you don't have satellite TV or cable TV, you can get us, you know, through Roku and on the radio, Sirius XM, you can listen to us. There's local radio stations. Go to our EWTN.com website and you'll find out all the different ways you can reach EWTN. There's all these materials on there as well, reference materials. So make sure you make use of those things. That's what they're there for. You'll find they're very, very helpful in navigating the culture we have today, where there's not a lot of support systems outside of things inside the church or for something like in media for an EWTN. And also just a reminder that Father Joseph and I enjoy doing this so much that we'll be here Saturday for the Walk for Life West Coast, which will be happening this Saturday. And you can look for that as well. And that's going to be on 24th of January. That's this Saturday. Father Mark will be out there. Doug Barry, Jim and Joy Pinto will be giving their testimonies, 2:30 p.m. Eastern. We'll be here in the studio anchoring that. And that's this Saturday. So that's the Walk for Life West Coast. And again, as we continue to bring you pictures, beautiful pictures from the streets of Washington, D.C. And we have Teresa Tomeo once more. Teresa.
Yes, sorry about that, Doug. We had to do a quick battery change. Of course, we have another wonderful pro-life person. This is Leslie from Virginia with her family. Tell us why you came out here today, Leslie.
I just wanted to support this great cause, and as I was explaining to the kids, if no one came, then they would think that there was no one that was pro-life. So it's a great day. It was easy to come. The weather is good, and my daughter is here with her college, and just really a great thing. You feel like you're united. And
how important do you think is it to have your younger children with you to see this and to have you take them?
I think it's really good. They, like I said, they need to know they're not the only ones, you know, that care, and this is just one way to express our...
All right, well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Okay,
How's it going? You having a good time?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you're speechless, right? You're so emotional about the move. Well, you know what? We're glad you're here, and you know what? About 10 years, you're going to be out there walking for life, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Have a good day. All right. We're going to keep moving, Doug. Obviously, a great turnout. As I said earlier when we were running up Constitution, I think this is the largest crowd based on the location of two large groups at 14th and 7th. Kind of two unofficial beginnings of the march. But we'll keep moving. We'll keep grabbing people. Back to you in the studio.
Thank you so much, Teresa. We'll continue to touch in with you and with some of those penetrating interviews. Again, man on the street, which is what you can look forward to while we keep you at the front of the march. And as we move along, we'll have some other high shots that'll show you some of the crowd as it moves ahead. That high shot you can usually get where you really get a feel, I think, for how many people are actually lining the streets and marching forward. And I was I hate to say it, I was a little facetiously thinking to myself when Teresa, Father, was talking about the helicopters. I'm thinking, as Father Groeschel would say, they think we're the new radicals. We're the ones, we're the terrorists you have to be worried about. We can't talk about other terrorists, but, you know, pro-lifers are terrorists, so you never know.
Well, charity always comes back to you, as I said. And I received a wonderful letter earlier this year from a woman named Elizabeth. She's 82 years old from Los Angeles, California. And she talked about, in her own life, her 4 older children had gone off to school. Her husband was not a very good provider, and she became pregnant again. And so it was kind of the idea that she should have an abortion. It really wasn't. They couldn't pay the bills and all these things. But she kept her little girl, even though she had to do work herself to earn a little extra income. And then she wrote, I'm now 85, and guess who takes care of me full time? Right. The little baby I had. She turned out to be this holistic healer that has helped her with her own diabetes. Right. So charity in some way always comes back to us. And when we welcome life, when we make the sacrifices for our little ones or our elderly ones, it always comes back to us in a richer life ourselves.
Right. Exactly. Even if on the short term we don't see it, you know, but on the long term it shows up. I mean, we can always so many times look back at things and realize, oh, that's why that happened, that's why that occurred. As we said before, Father, there's one of our high shots where you can see the marchers moving forward. It sounds like some of our crew is out there trying to explain exactly who we are, whether it's to some of the people who are coordinating the event, or the police, or maybe just trying to get some interviews lined up. It's really beautiful. I think it's the first year I really remember this kind of banner kind of set up like that, where it's not just kind of like a hodgepodge of banners. Is that that might be the National Right to Life, maybe with the, I couldn't tell, because they have their Rose Dinner, which is tonight. So that might be something. And they have other events. You can go to their website and find out from the March for Life, not the National Right to Life, but the March for Life, about their Rose Dinner, and also the other events they have. I think they even have a 5K that they run. They have some educational things. So there's other things going on around this event. And then, as Jeannie indicated when she spoke, the idea of tying in, sending pictures. You know, that's a great way of evangelization, you know, through the internet. It's very hard. Not everybody's called to get up in somebody's face or even stand in front of a crowd or even step out in public. But you can, you know, take pictures of this and send it out to your friends. It's a very non-threatening way to at least raise awareness. And again, you got some wonderful pictures there. And maybe we'll touch in again with Michelle and Mike while we wait for Teresa to get some more insights from some of the people either at the site, in the field, but at least using social media. Go ahead. Michelle?
Doug, I have got a great post from a nurse we all would wish we would have when we were dying. She says that she takes care of many people at the end of their lives. They give me a gift. They give me the last years, months, weeks, and days of their life. I get to love them, to know them, to love and know their family, and then they die. Everything they do, in their need and in their vulnerability, there is a sort of greatness, a sort of power. It's the power of sanctity. They are the face of Christ, and I'm the servant. This is from Betty Busiek. Betty, I'd like you to be my nurse.
Mine too. And this is from Russell. Russell writes, when I get disheartened by stories of teenagers in the news, you know, it's so rejuvenating to see hundreds of thousands of young people coming out to make a statement for their brothers and sisters without a voice. May God bless and reward every one of them in EWTN. It's been said before, but those kids aren't the future. They are our present. Back to you, Doug.
with our pro-life insights coming from social media, and just remind people they can be in touch with us through our social media, and we'll get some of those tweets and texts on the screen and maybe get some of them read, while we also get some interviews from the man on the street, the people who've journeyed to Washington for the 42nd annual March for Life, where the theme this year is Every Life is a Gift. And you know, we were talking about special needs children that came up, dealing with Down syndrome children, and I know one of the outreaches the church has, Jean Vanier, has worked, that society has worked with special needs and handicapped children over the years, and I know we're going to be actually shooting a documentary later this year on Jean Vanier's work in France, and so that's something else that people can look forward to.
And it was something that he really didn't intend to found a community or a movement. He welcomed these two men into his own home, but it was something that grew and developed. And that's kind of how God works, isn't it? That he may inspire something, a little work that we can do in our own environment, and then somehow it continues to grow and affect others, and they're drawn to it too.
And like with Mother, you need to be open. You start with raising peanuts to running a network. You know what I mean? You have to be willing to change your plans and adjust them as the doors are opened, as our Lord opens and shows you the way, the lamp unto my feet. Now we've finally gotten in touch with the one and only Wyatt Goolsby, who's out there speaking with some people from Archbishop Ryan High School. Wyatt, welcome to the program.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. We are here on Constitution Avenue. We've been following all of the marchers down from 14th Street. We've made our way here to Constitution and Pennsylvania, and so we're talking with a lot of the groups here, as you mentioned. First off, guys, give me each of your first names.
Maggie.
Anthony.
Giovanna.
Rebecca.
I'm Fran.
Tell me what group you guys are with.
Archbishop Ryan High School from Philadelphia.
Okay, so tell me what motivated you guys to come here from Philadelphia?
All life is important, so we wanted to come and support the cause.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it seems to me young people, such an important part of this March for Life. Why do you think it's important that young people come out here in full force as they are?
Well, people need to understand that every life matters and we all deserve a chance. So.
You were joking that you were just happy to be on the bus and be here with the crew, is that right?
Yep. I like large groups.
Of course. Well, don't we all love large groups? And it's certainly large groups is something that, like I said, guys, we have been following throughout the day from the beginning of this march, as we're going to continue to find young people like this. Like I said, something that's important, and obviously we'll continue to follow all the activity as well on Facebook and Twitter as we've been doing throughout the day. But we'll toss it back to you now.
Very good. Thank you, Wyatt. That's great. You know, what's interesting and what struck me, Father, and there's a nice wide shot, high shot. You can see part of the crowd moving. There's a power behind that movement as well. I was thinking about the fact that here you have a couple of motivated students, right? They go, but because they're motivated, they pull along some of the others who aren't so motivated, which at least gives them an opportunity and opens them up to raising their awareness about something like pro-life.
To see young people with a different perspective than maybe what they're used to seeing. Attitudes and desires that are quite different than what they may be regularly encountering in their lives.
Right. It's like we see many times if anybody, you know, somebody accompanies something to visit EWTN, or somebody accompanies somebody to go to Mass, and then out of that is touched in some way, and it leads to something new and different in their lives. And once again, we touch base with Teresa, who's got some pro-lifers from maybe Michigan. How could it be Michigan? Teresa?
Well, who knew? My home state of Michigan. But it's interesting that there's so many families here this time around, Doug. I mean, there's always obviously a lot of people, different age groups, a lot of young people. But I've noticed just walking along Constitution before the march started that there were a lot of people who had younger kids, 2 or 3 kids, some larger families. And we have a family from, as you said, northern Michigan. This is Melissa Leesburg, and she is from way, way up in not quite the UP, right?
It's northern Michigan.
Northern Michigan. And this is not your first march. You've been here many times before.
Yes, probably about 10 times. Probably our 10th march.
What does it mean to you to bring your family here to this event?
It's unexplainable. I mean, if we don't have life, what do we have? And I'm glad that I don't have to teach my kids that. That's what they believe in their hearts, and that's how we're going to keep going.
But how much of them believing this is because of the environment that you bring them up in and bringing them to something like this, correct?
That is true, yes. And they can't wait to come here every year and hope to make a difference in somebody's life.
Well, they already are, obviously. Let me talk to Nicole. You were so excited. You were telling me that you really enjoy coming here. How many times is it here for you, honey?
I don't know, probably about my 3rd year.
Yeah, what do you think?
I think that it's just fun to come out here and to change people's lives. And on the bus ride here, there was this girl that helped fund this, and there was a video about this like 4th-year-old girl, and she was talking about the girl, and she was saying that it was helpful that she helped fund this.
Are you going to keep coming with Mom and your family?
Yes.
Okay, well, you are such a pretty little girl. You have beautiful green eyes. Anybody ever tell you that? You're adorable. Listen, thank you. Safe travels back to Michigan. Are you with a particular group? I noticed you have our the Right to Life insignia here.
We're just with the Lapeer group.
Okay.
Out of Lapeer, Michigan. We come down to that. It's one I've gone to. And we just pick up signs everywhere we go. The kids love to have the signs out and make a difference.
All right. Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you, Nicole. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you back home in the home state of Michigan.
Thank you.
Back to you, Doug. We'll be here, and we'll grab some more folks. And it's interesting to watch the different groups come by. I've already seen several groups from around the world. Of course, we interviewed the Canadian people earlier, but I saw some of my fellow Italianos from the Italy pro-life group and a few other countries represented as well. So we'll continue to interview, and we'll go back to you in the studio for now.
Very good. Thank you so much, Teresa. Again, we want to keep those images up on the screen. Studio hasn't changed too much, but you know, it's amazing with the March for Life right there. If you were watching our coverage from several years ago, that would look like we're just starting the march. But because of what we've been able to do technologically this year, we're actually at the front of the march throughout the march. And so we've had some glitches, but in the end, we're getting what we were hoping for, and we're hoping to allow people to really feel like they're participating in the march, not only the rally in the beginning of the march, but the actual entirety of the march ending at the Supreme Court. And also on the ground is our own Wyatt Goolsbee from EWTN News Nightly. Wyatt, let's go to you.
Hey there, absolutely. Yes, we're still here on the corner of Constitution and Pennsylvania, where we have been talking with student groups as we have been talking about how young people are such an important part of the March for Life. And so we're out here, as you can see, all of the banners, all of the slogans, something that has become embedded here. I'm also talking with Todd Jackson here and his group. Todd, tell me a little about where you guys are from and what group you are with.
We're from Fort Wayne, Indiana, and we're with Concordia Lutheran High School with our pro-life group.
And so you tell me you've been here before, right?
Yes, this is my 3rd year.
So 3rd year. So tell me a little bit about this one. This is quite a contrast to last year where we had all the cold weather, right?
Yes. Last year it was really cold and everyone was kind of shivering, but you know, we all bundled together and supported the great cause.
Yeah, tell me why that's so important, Todd, that you guys come out here year after year, as you have been doing, to stand up for the unborn.
Because this is the civil rights issue of our day, and our country was founded on life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And these babies are not getting a chance at either one of these three, and I believe that isn't fair to anybody.
Okay, that's a good point, Todd. I want to also point out one thing. I don't know if you could see it from where I'm standing right here, but I wanted to point out this banner in particular. I am the pro-life generation. This banner, we've been seeing one of the most common ones from studentsforlife.org. Again, it's a common one, but we've been seeing a lot of people carrying it, something very important to so many groups like this one out here. We'll toss it back to you now.
Very good. Thank you so much, Wyatt. That's great. And again, Wyatt Goolsbee from EWTN News Nightly in the midst of the march. And we'll be back with Teresa momentarily. Father, you were noting some of the banners of some of the groups passing by. You want to mention a couple you might have seen?
We saw the Sisters of Life, St. John the 23rd Seminary. I'm looking for John Carroll because our own Father John Paul rode the bus up there with them, as well as our cameraman's wife. Bo Owens, his wife Amy, is on that bus trip as well. So we're keeping our eye peeled for John Carroll High School. Right,
and the remnants of Mike Romano's family who may be in the midst there possibly as well with the Romano family banner. Now we're going to Teresa Tomeo once again with an interview.
Hi, Doug, and yes, we have another lovely family with us. We have Allison and her mom Gail from Rhode Island. And Gail, tell us a little bit why you come out every year.
Because we believe that pro-life is very important. We've got to get the message out, especially for families that are faced with decisions about whether to have children with disability. We're very blessed to have Allison in our life.
Allison, you were telling me it means a lot to you to be here and that you had a very special message you wanted to impart.
Yes, I want to say that to my friends, like to Kathy Rigby, and the gymnast, that also my friend, my closest friend, and my grandma DeSandro that is in Florida. I want to tell them both that how much I appreciate them, because I want to tell them both that I care about pro-life, and I really like to care about little kids and all these people here to support them, because I do believe, and I really believe that every kid needs a second chance in life, and definitely in pro-life, because like my friend Catherine Rigby always says, every kid, what is it Catherine always says?
Never give up.
Never give up,
Right,
and
right.
never give up hope.
That's right.
Because in Peter Pan, she says, never grow old.
Well, boy, we all had your attitude about life, would be a lot better off now. There's a special sign you wanted to show me, right? Can you turn around and show our viewers? It says, Mom, thanks for having me. And Mike's going to pan out a little bit on this, Doug, so you can see it. But Allison, God bless you. It must mean a lot to you to be here, does it?
Yes, it does.
That's right.
And Grammy, Kathy, you always show me the life. And I'm showing these kids, and I'm showing these kids the meaning of the true meaning of pro-life. Because like Kathy Rigby always taught me, think happily, wonderful thoughts.
All right, there you go, sweetheart. Thank you. So nice meeting you. Gail, thanks. And I don't know what else to say after that, Doug. A little bit emotional right now, so I'm going to throw it back to the studio. These are the kind of things we see here every day when we come and support life. Back to you.
Thank you. Yes, very powerful and emotional. Thank you so much for getting us that interview and that wonderful, really testimony direct to the heart, from the heart to the heart of the church. And you know, it's the kind of thing like Teresa said so well. I mean, it's when you boil it down, that's what it's really all about, and that's why people are here, and that's why sometimes, you know, we always kind of go back and forth between this being, in a sense, a celebration for life, and at the same time, the other side of it, dealing with such an evil as abortion. But we like to also, you know, just mention a couple of the people, groups who made the effort to get Couples for Christ. I saw Knights for Life. That was a parish, St. Catherine of Siena, a Chaldean pro-life group, a Catholic Chaldean pro-life group.
I saw Voglio Vivere, I Want to Live, the Italian group apparently, Greenville, Pennsylvania for Life, Mount St. Mary's Seminary, the Catholic Daughters of America, and St. Thomas, Virgin Islands.
Right, from all over. And now let's touch base with Wyatt again. Wyatt, who do you have?
Hey there, yeah, absolutely. We're still here on Constitution Avenue in Pennsylvania, and of course we've been talking about all the students groups that come out here, but of course there's also just a lot of parish groups, church groups, as well as regional schools as well. Let me introduce Father Michael here. Father Mike, tell me where you guys are from and who all you with here.
So we're from the Diocese of Rockville Center. I'm a pastor of Immaculate Conception West Hampton Beach, and these folks are from Our Lady of the Hamptons. It's a regional school on the east end of Long Island. And so they're also with St. Rosalie's as well. So we have two parishes and some of our regional school students with us, 7th graders.
How long is that bus ride up here?
It took a while.
Yeah, I figured. Now, have you guys come here before as parish and student groups?
They have, yes,
Okay.
traditionally.
Okay, very good, excellent. Well, you know, of course it's always important to hear from the people themselves. Dylan, you were telling me about why it's so important for you guys to come out here. Tell me why it is.
Well, everyone deserves a chance to live, and yeah, that's why we come out and support it.
I love you guys have unique signs as well. The birth of every child changes the world here. Very important to mention as well, guys. Now, let me ask you this. Liam over here, I've also talked with Liam. Liam, you were telling me you wanted to highlight one of their teachers. So you're going to call out today.
I'd like to take a shout out to Mr. G.
Where'd he go?
Right there.
He's tying his shoe. He ran over.
From Our Lady of the Hamptons.
Oh man, can you believe that? But it is important to note all the teachers that helped to organize this event. Let's see if we can get him over here. Come over here. How are you doing?
Very good.
Tell me how it's been traveling with your group here.
They're great. Great bunch of kids. A little noisy, but they were good.
Of course.
As long as we feed them, they're fine.
Why is it so important that you and so many others help to organize and get these kids
Because
out
these
here?
are the ones that are going to make the change. It's not us, the old people, it's them that are going to make the change. They're a great group of kids.
Well said. Excellent. That's, like I said, I don't know if I can put it any better myself, guys. We'll toss it back to you.
Very good. Thank you so much, Wyatt. That's great. Continue the fine work there, bringing us on the corner reporting, literally right there. And we're going to check in with Michelle Johnson over at our social media. I think we just got an important email or text. Michelle, why don't you tell us what it is?
We did. The Washington Times is reporting that the House has voted to cement a ban on taxpayer funding for abortion through Obamacare or in other cases. A turnaround bid to save face after Republican leaders were forced to pull a groundbreaking bill that would prohibit abortions after 20 weeks of pregnancy. Wow, a ban on taxpayer funding for abortion. The 242 to 179 vote reopened the fight over Obamacare and whether it subsidizes abortions. Interesting. That is breaking news. I'm sure we'll be hearing a lot more about that.
Sure. Very good. Thank you so much. And of course, maybe later tonight on EWTN News Nightly, people can look for that. And I'm sure it'll be a topic of discussion on Raymond's special pro-life program tonight on The World Over. Bow back to you, Teresa, in the midst of the crowd.
Hi, Doug. We are in the midst of the crowd. Regain my composure. Thanks for your patience. And we're talking with Missy DeConte, and she's a big EWTN fan, and she's a big supporter of us too. Faith, life, and family. Love it. Take a stand with style.
That's right.
We speak the same language, girlfriend.
Right. Well, why not be pro-life, but have it with style? You know, that the idea is to be able to wear these things in the workplace, casually and everything, instead of, you know, there's a time and place for t-shirts and things like that. This type of event is a perfect time for that, but it's nice to have a silent statement that you can wear to work, but also a portion of every one of our sales goes to either EWTN, the Terry Schiavo Life and Hope Network, American Life League. The purchaser gets to choose online which nonprofit they wanted to go to. You know,
so how long have you been doing this?
Only about a year. We come every year to the March for Life, and this is the first time we've actually had our items actually ready for the march. And that was really what was the whole springboard for it. Was I was tired of not seeing anything pro-life scarf-wise that actually had, you know, I like Ralph Lauren crests, and I always like to have polo shirts and Lily Pulitzer, but I thought, but none of them have a real pro-life message. Right. And then it just kind of got started with, it can't just be pro-life, it has to be pro-faith, it has to have pro-family, and then pro-traditional marriage. I mean, all of these things are under attack.
Right. And all tied into the pro-life cause.
Exactly. Yeah. So why not have it all under one roof, you know, one banner, so to speak, and then be, you know, like I said, giving money towards the causes that desperately need our help.
Do you notice now that you'll be able to wear at event, not obviously at events like this, but when you're out in the public, let's say more in secular society, people say, wow, that's lovely. What does it mean?
Exactly. That's why I say, you know, think of it like as a long train ride home, and somebody might just see the crest and think, oh, you know, that's attractive. But upon closer examination, they go, oh, wait a minute, that's not Ralph Lauren. What is that? And it might start, you know, it might spark a conversion or prevent someone from having an abortion, or, you know, maybe they were thinking of euthanizing someone in their family, and it at least allows you to broach the subject, or not. It can just be a silent statement. I mean, we have another crest for people that don't want the symbols, if they're not that, you know, in your face. We have one that just has FLF with the crown for martyrdom, and by the way, there's a lot of significance. I mean, purposely the red crown for martyrdom, obviously the symbols that I said, gold for divinity. We have a nod to Our Lady with the fleur-de-lis, and, you know, I mean, it's just, you can look at our website, it's flfwear.com, and read the About Us, and it'll tell you what all the significance is. Because, I mean, I really put a lot into designing it so that it had significant meaning. It wasn't just something, you know, I wanted it to make a difference.
Well, you know as well as I do, and you know Jeanette always says that wearing makeup is an act of charity, so we have to, all of ours, right, especially after once you hit 50 and beyond. But the idea of putting your best faith and face forward for God, I think is very important, and this is very attractive, but it's also very subtle. So thanks for doing this, and thanks for partnering with us at EWTN and helping us out too.
Thank you so much.
Doug, it's so interesting the stories we come across here when you're standing at the march and you see so many different ministries, and that there are more than one ways, as Missy said, to express your pro-life faith and family cause. And this is just one way to do it. Love the scarf. Love the bling. Nice job.
Thank you.
Back to you.
Very good. Thank you, Teresa. And of course, after you know, getting as emotional as you were there before, it's probably good to have some extra makeup there to kind of get yourself back together. It's always tough in the middle of something like this. It's so emotional. Of course, Teresa is an expert on this. Of course, she has actually a new book called Walk Softly and Carry a Great Bag, on-the-go devotions. When somebody's on the go, it's Teresa. So, you know, one of the things we saw momentarily there, we had some images a little earlier, you saw the banner there was actually right from the Supreme Court. You saw the Supreme Court building. So the actual front of the march has actually arrived. And as you can see here, the march is anywhere but finished. I mean, there are just thousands and thousands of people still coming up Constitution Avenue, and the front of the march is already at the Supreme Court building. And we'll get you some more pictures of that later. We'll get some reports from there if we can as well. But here you can see a beautiful high shot of the crowd. Before we saw St. Nicholas's Church. I didn't know where they were from. Holy Spirit Parish had a banner. They were there. And also we had some other groups who were, there was one from a town in Pennsylvania as well, pro-life group from there. And Father, you had a couple as well, right?
St. Joseph's Seminary in Dunwoody, Newport Central Catholic, the Diocese of Harrisburg, Villanovans for Life. So we saw all of those banners.
Right, and we can see some other banners here, some international ones on the screen passing in front of us as well. And here's some of the hardy marchers who've made the journey here as well. I see the National Council of Catholic Women, the Voice of Catholic Women. They're there as well. There's a group with a banner that says Crusade on it. And if you can look way in the back, you can still see the throngs moving past our camera position here, which is closer to before you get to the actual Capitol itself. And so when you're thinking about the front of the march already being up past the Capitol, having made the right turn to get to where the Supreme Court building is, you realize just how many people there are. This is one where you really wish they still had those aerial shots they used to do.
Right. We saw Linden, New Jersey, a couple of Polish banners from that area, Bishop O'Connell High School, Catholic University of America, and Fort Wayne, South Bend.
Right, and we can also see now that we've put in the smaller box the actual count of where we are on the abortions happening since the beginning. We're almost at 700 as we speak. And we see St. Edmund Campion Academy on the screen as well, marching past our camera position. And that's why we encourage people to bring those banners, because it's a great way to attract attention, because maybe there's people who aren't interested in your parish and being that much involved with the pro-life movement. But, you know, when they hear that the Holy Apostles, that's the seminary up in Connecticut, Catholic University, of course, is in D.C., it may be another way of attracting people to at least pay attention and open up their minds to the question about pro-life issues, and as well with the fact that you come back to the parish and tell everybody, gee, there's a lot of people there, and they watch the TV news and they don't see anything. But if they can get these images, you get them to watch EWTN, because you say, gee, our parish banner's going to be there, Father's going to be there. It might be a great way in. We're also going to check in right now while we watch images from the march with our social media center. Michelle, Mike.
Well, we've got a post from a Rebecca Legenfelder. She says, with my second pregnancy at 18 weeks, I was told to abort due to possible uterine complications that would result in death for me and my baby. I left without saying a word. I didn't listen, had a beautiful baby girl, and through miraculous events during the birth, converted to Catholicism. I now have 7 beautiful children, all through C-section, all of which, according to doctors, should not be alive, including myself. You can never go wrong being faithful to God's will.
Beautiful. And before I read this post from Colleen, I just want to tell Teresa, I want to thank her for last year keeping me warm, and I apologize that Chico's was closed. She called me yesterday and said that Chico's was closed. I'm like, oh no, must be a bad omen or something. But anyway, Colleen writes, I was pro-choice. I'm not sure when that changed, maybe when I heard my baby's heartbeat for the first time. When I realized that as a baby being killed, I felt I had to do something to make right the wrongs I did and pray for anyone who I may have influenced with my ignorant beliefs about abortion. Back to you, Doug.
And thank you, Michelle and Mike. And of course, Mike was referring to either a coffee shop or some other location there in relation to Teresa. We're going back out to Teresa, who's in Washington. Teresa, what's up?
Hi, Doug. Yes, and we are with Liferunners. And the last time we spoke, Pat Castle, we had a very interesting conversation on the radio. It was quite an interview. It kind of ties in to the whole pro-life theme. Share that with our viewers.
It does. It was very much a God first, life always, teammates forever. And during that interview, one of the Liferunners texted me, who's an OB-GYN down in Texas, and she said, hey, I delivered a baby just before this interview, and I'm pulling all my staff together to hear it. So, you know, together we are winning. That's another motto in the pro-life movement from the Vitae Foundation. And since you and I talked, I had the privilege to serve in the Air Force for 25 years in a blue uniform. Of course, you know I've served the pro-life movement in a blue uniform. Well, 7 months ago, I became the Vitae Foundation president, it's the world's largest and oldest research-based pro-life messaging organization. Put out over 6 billion life-affirming messages that saved over 82,000 lives by way of pregnancy help centers and the messaging. So today we got the Liferunners team, we got Vitae Foundation, Unity is out here, my goodness, consolation with the weather. And you know, Liferunners are the kind that it didn't matter if it was snowing, it was the National Park Service that canceled our 5K last year at the March Life. We had it this morning.
How'd it go?
So it went great. You know, it was perfect running weather at about 40 degrees and a lot of great finishes. We were able to announce the Life Runner of the Year, the male Life Runner of the Year student from George Mason University, who was Ryan Cassio, and that was exciting. So now, you know, we look ahead. It's 2015, and this is the first event for the National Liferunners team for 15. The next one is the relay across America, the Cross America Relay.
Really where you get the message out even more so.
So it's 40 days of running and walking. You know, ages 1 to 88 participated in it last year. That means anyone that's willing to put a Remember the Unborn jersey on and walk a 5K or jog a 5K or race a 5K can do it. And this year we had a north-south arms. So we start in Grand Forks, North Dakota and head to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. We start in Corpus Christi, Texas and head to Sioux Falls, South Dakota. And that adds another 1,500 miles. So now we're up to 5,500 miles, 40 days of Lent. Also kicks off as usual on the Brooklyn Bridge and on the Golden Gate Bridge. And 40 days of running and walking across America with Remember the Unborn on our back. That's awesome.
Let me ask you in terms of, you hit on a really important point because we're doing a lot, as you know, at EWTN with social media, which is so huge in terms of giving people the opportunity to, you know, to tweet, to post, to send us short videos and YouTube, and Instagram, all these different things. It's interesting when talking to Jeannie Monahan from the March that because of the activity on social media, it's actually forcing the secular media to pay attention because we're actually getting the message out, our story out there, and so they're forced to react.
True. And yesterday I emceed the Law of Life Summit. It was our 4th year with the Law of Life Summit. We had 24 speakers in 2 hours, and the Law of Life Summit was that message. It was how do we take media with our pro-life organizations and even individuals through social media and erode at the law of the land to diminish it, to make it less relevant. You know, and that's kind of the spirit of the March for Life. It is the spirit of the March for Life, this together we are winning spirit where we all come together and say, listen, the only thing that's missing is more. We can all do a little bit more with social media. Speak up. You know, 82% of post-abortion women said that if just one person would have reached out to them with a life-affirming message, they would have chose life. That's us.
Listen to this story that I got for you. Then we got to go back to the studio. But our pastor at the parish where my husband is assigned as a deacon told us just 2 weeks ago that he's working with a woman who had an abortion about 35 years ago. And she said the only reason she's going to him is because he's the first priest that she ever heard talk about the pro-life issue. She had been to confession but still dealing with a lot of issues. But he was speaking up regularly about the pro-life issue and talking about God's mercy and forgiveness.
Right.
So there you go. We're out of time, but Pat, good to see you. Okay, go ahead, have a cheer.
So here it goes. This is the National Liferunners team. So if you're sitting at home, get ready for the cheer. Follow with us. I'm going to say all in Christ, and everyone out there say for pro-life. Here we go. All in Christ. For pro-life. All in Christ. For pro-life. All in Christ. For pro-life.
Thanks, Pat. Good to see you again. Back to you, Doug. Can't say much after that. I think they said it all.
You got it. Liferunners there, and that's a good way to keep warm too. This year not so much of an issue as I remember last year, but I think they were ready to start running right away. You know, there was somebody pointed out before about that interesting message we had on the bottom was either a tweet or a text somebody sent us about more talk about human rights and about pro-life and less about you know, deflated footballs and things like that. And you know, of course that has to do with the questions about the Patriot game. And speaking of Patriots, we're going out to Wyatt Goolsbury, who I think is speaking to one. Wyatt?
Guys, you know, it's not very often that we get to actually talk to a founding father, but I did manage to find George Washington today, so we figured we'd ask him why he came out here. Tell me your real first name, tell me where you're from, and what motivated you to dress up as a founding father.
Well, my real name is James Renwick Manship, but I go by statesmanship, and I am, you know, I am George Washington, because of Jeremiah 1:5. Jeremiah 1:5 says, God knew his purpose for you before he formed you in the womb to be a prophet to the nations. And that's why where God took extra long time to form an extra long nose on me so I could portray George Washington.
There you go. You have several signs here. You, of course, be a patriot, because why not? When you're dressed as George Washington, you need to be a patriot, vote pro-life sign. But you also have this one that's behind me. Tell me a little bit about this one. This is almost like a
replica of the first Navy flag, the Liberty Tree flag, also called the Washington Cruiser flag, that flew beginning in September 1775 on the first 7 ships of the American Navy. And notice it's a triangle or a trinity-shaped tree, and the thing is appeal to heaven, not an appeal. Appeal to heaven is a verb, not a noun. So it's a collective command for all Americans to appeal to heaven, to pray to God.
You were telling me something about the important quotes that George Washington said that are very pro-life in its nature. I didn't even realize that he had said some very interesting things. Tell me about one of those quotes that you're telling me.
Well, on the 3rd of July, the day before the birth certificate of our infant nation, the Declaration of Independence, was signed, George Washington, as general in New York, said, the fate of unborn millions will now depend, under God, on the conduct and courage of this army. And behind us today, you see that army continuing today.
And it appears to be a growing army as we've got more people coming right here.
God bless it is. Thank you. Thank you. And then another one right after being inaugurated president in August of 1789, Washington wrote to the United Baptists of Virginia. Sure. And he said, I beg you will consider that no one could be more zealous than I in opposing every form of spiritual tyranny. And there is no tyranny worse spiritually than killing a child in the womb. And so both of those quotes of Washington are applicable to this war for life. It's war for life against death. And
well, like I said, it's just not even necessarily some people think about right away, but it's very important. Like you said, it motivates people to come out here, and like yourself, even dress as George Washington.
Well, the father of his country has to be out here to protect the unborn, because the unborn are the future of America. And Washington did everything for the future of America, and that's what these people are doing. They're going in the footsteps of Washington.
Okay, very good, excellent. We should mention that he's been dressed as George Washington since 1998, so you do this pretty consistently. There you go. Right. Some people are motivated for the March for Life. Other people really motivated here for the March for Life. We'll send it back to you.
It's a great congregation of patriots. Best time all year for that. God bless you. Thank you.
Very good, Wyatt. Thank you so much, and I apologize for distorting your last name slightly there. And it was great to hear from the father of our country, who's concerned about the unborn children of his country as well. And we got some more images from the march, as you can see, with all the different banners. Father, you had a couple quick ones before we go to Teresa.
We saw the Catholic Gators for Life from Florida, Catholic Campus Ministry, Wayne County, Ohio. I also noticed Tony Melendez is in the group as well.
Yeah, I think we caught a shot of him as we had the camera in the middle of the crowd. And I'm sure, being proud Alabamians, we're sure that Alabama and the University of Auburn must also be there in the crowd someplace. We just haven't picked up their banners yet. If Florida's there, Alabama and Auburn would have to be there, as we all know. Again, we got some wonderful shots right from the middle of the crowd, high shots of all the number of people pouring down Constitution Avenue, and again, snaking its way literally from the original rally site all the way up to the Supreme Court building. And like we said, the front of the march has been at the Supreme Court building for quite a while now. And there are a couple of protesters there, and we wish we could just give you a shot that shows the small group of protesters, the enormity of the pro-lifers, including the West Virginia Teens for Life. I think, do we have Teresa? I wasn't sure whether we had Teresa, if she's got anybody yet to go. She does, and so we're going to go to Teresa.